Hello UMAC followers, we are excited to continue our Lessons from Leaders series, and we're excited. Today's session features Jana Koehler from the University of Minnesota Morris. Jana oversees both the men's and women's golf programs. She serves as the director of golf for the Cougars, and Jana is in her 20th season affiliated with the Cougar golf programs, done a fantastic job. During her time, Minnesota Morris women have secured 2 UMAC championships, 3 second place finishes, and I think one of the neatest accomplishments from my perspective, Jana was named the UMAC Women's Golf Coach of the Decade last year as part of our UMAC 10-year celebration. So thank you for being with us today.
Yes, thank you both Corey and Sarah and the UMAC. This is a great opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll jump right in. As I mentioned, Jana oversees both the men's program and the women's program at Minnesota Morris, and so between duties with that, overseeing assistant coaches, all the student athletes, you make a lot of decisions, a lot of important decisions. Help us understand from a leadership perspective, what are some of the most critical decisions that you make?
You know, I think it has varied over the years. When I first started my coaching, I think it was just the student athletes and what to do every day at practice, which tournaments to do, how should I go about recruiting. But now lately it's more on the personnel side. Like you said, I have 2 assistant coaches now, and I've started adding a student coach to that. So I just feel the supervision piece, but it also lightens the load then and truly lets me focus on the student athletes.
Sure.
Budget is another huge thing over the years. You know, our university has experienced up and down fiscally, as well as the athletic department. So fundraising is key too nowadays, and our alumni is a huge, huge piece. And we were fortunate enough this past weekend at our home tournament, one of our 73 alumni was riding along with, so I got to introduce him to all of our student athletes. So just a great opportunity for me and our student athletes.
Sure, that is great. So often when we talk about leadership, we talk about characteristics that are common amongst successful people. As you look at leadership, what's one characteristic that comes to mind that you feel is often common, or most leaders possess in some form? What's that one characteristic that comes to mind?
I mean, the word that comes to my mind is balance. I mean, some days I'm feeling like I am rocking my coaching profession, and other days it's my personal life that takes priority. So I'm trying to demonstrate the balance of a professional and personal life, and hopefully the student athletes are picking up on that. And you can do more than one thing and follow your passion and be successful at both.
Yep, absolutely. You mentioned that balance that often coaching, you continually have to navigate even out of season. There's many demands on your time. Tell us a little bit more in terms of how does that look from a leadership style standpoint? How would you describe your leadership style and how you approach motivating your student athletes, your assistant coaches?
I think the big thing is I have the passion not only for collegiate golf and the University of Minnesota Morris, being an alum from there as well, but having that passion really drives everything I do. And from the prospective student athlete point, getting them on campus and to be able to share my story and the Cougars golf story with them is huge. In regards to motivating the student athletes, giving them an experience that they'll remember for the rest of their life. I think our different courses that we're playing at for tournaments is huge. And golf is a mental game, so to be able to, if they're having a bad hole or a bad round, to be able to try to snap them out of it and get them back ease, because once they're relaxed, then they'll start golfing better and they'll enjoy the experience.
Sure.
So it's kind of, I've learned over the years, trial and error, so it's like if one thing doesn't work for one student athlete, we'll try something else.
Sure, absolutely. And when you talk about having to find maybe individually things that are effective with each student athlete, taking that a little bit different path. When you look at different leaders, give me one example or somebody that stands out to you as maybe a leader of leaders, somebody that as you've spent some time or studied, comes to mind as an example that sticks out and maybe impacting even how you lead.
I think the biggest thing is over my years of coaching, I've read and listened to Dan Tudor.
Yeah.
A lot of people have read about him too, and I've been able to take to heart some of his tips and tricks, especially in regards to recruiting. But lately, he's had Mandy Green with Busy Coach, and so I've heard her speak at a couple conferences, and so been able to steal some tips and tricks from her. So it's being able to listen to people, ask people questions, whether it's other coaches, if it's commissioners, if it's motivational speakers, and just not being afraid to ask those questions and ask someone else what they're thinking, and then share your knowledge with others.
Yeah.
So it's been nice to see new coaches come into the UMAC in the golf and be able to visit with them and hopefully give them some of the tips and tricks.
Sure.
And see them be successful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When you, I mentioned earlier, now in your 20th season, 2 decades of coaching, which is fantastic. I think that speaks to obviously your ability to continue to balance and adjust and learn and continue to develop yourself. When you look back now, what's maybe one example of maybe a value or a learning opportunity, a growth opportunity as you look back impacted you from a coaching perspective? And then on the other perspective or other end of the spectrum, what's one of the mountains that you've experienced from a coaching standpoint?
Yes, I want to end with good results, so we'll talk about some of the low valleys. Obviously, that was my first few years coaching because I had to switch from being a teammate to those student athletes to now being their coach.
Sure.
At that point, I did not have a mentor for me to help learn what it's like to be a college coach, especially in regards to recruiting, not knowing the rules. So I'm happy that the UMAC is sponsoring things like this and other conferences so we can learn that. The high part, obviously, I think has to be the fall of 2009 and 2010 when our team won the conference, and I think those were the years where we had our best team scores. All of the individuals contributed. We had some that didn't play in the conference tournament, but they were still a part of the team.
Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And let's stay on kind of women's golf specific here. A question about that. We continue to try to grow women's golf at the collegiate level, not just within our conference, but even nationally, trying to increase numbers, more engagement. What's some advice or counsel you would give to maybe it's the Jana of 20 years ago or a coach that's just starting now, at the college level, trying to get started with women's golf and continue to be a part of what all of us are hoping to see is continuing it to see it grow?
Like I said, too, having that passion. So I've been fortunate enough that one of my former golfers, Kelsey Wattenhofer, we were able to help her secure a grad assistant position at Briarcliff. So she has taken that next step, and so it's like if we could get more women to take that next step. Megan Foley, who recently graduated as well, took an assistant pro position. So keeping the women in the golf profession is huge. Even if it's not at a collegiate coaching experience, high school is wonderful too because we need more and more female coaches, not only golf but other sports as well.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we hope certainly from a conference perspective that we can continue to grow and evolve women's golf in our league. And again, really appreciate your willingness to be here today and spend time with us. Again, Jana will be taking the Cougar men and women to the conference championship this week. You'll see them later this week in action, and hopefully you'll be able to add another title to the resume.
Thank you, Corey.